What is up, you guys? Chase the Dark Sage here. Today we're back with another manga review, and this manga review is a nasty man manga review. Oh yes, sir, of the series Shiori's Diary, created by the mangaka Suya. And can I also make a note that all of his series, aesthetically or artistically, look the same. Like, all of his characters look the same in each other series I've seen that he has published online, and those are also nasty man series, so you're welcome on that. But this story right here goes over the tale of infidelity, jealousy, and just downright nastiness. This is a very nasty manga, I will say that. And don't go into this thinking that, you know, you're gonna get the greatest story ever. You get what I'm saying? I kind of thought that this would be more of a serious tone story because I saw that this was a seinen when I looked it up online. And it's a lot of nastiness. I would say it's a lot of seinen nastiness, but in terms of story, it didn't do what I thought it was gonna do, but it is only 3 volumes, so I couldn't expect too much from the series overall. But honestly, when I first saw this series on the shelf, because you guys know that I had to collect the series, when I first saw this series on the shelf, I had to pick it up for 2 reasons. One, it was a 7 Seas title, so I knew more than likely it was a Nasty Man series. And the second reason is that I don't have many Nasty Man series in my collection with an actual cohesive storyline. So to see this 22 chapter, 3 volume series follow the tales of a married woman, you know I had to check it out. You knew it was going to be spicy and juicy, so I had to check it out just off of the premise it gave me. But before we get into a review, before I actually start talking about this manga, I need you guys to go ahead and like the video and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and follow me on all my other social media platforms. All my links will be in the description down below. So, let's get nasty. Now let's go ahead and go over the plot of Shiori's Diary. Shiori is a woman in her mid-30s living an average but boring life. She has a husband who she's been married to for 9 years but has not been intimate with within the last 3 years. But one day, while she was cleaning, she stumbles upon her husband's diary, a book filled with stories of his extracurricular activities, if you get what I'm saying, which leads her down the path to quote-unquote get back at her husband by writing her own diary with her own escapades. One thing she does wonder, are the stories in the diary fiction or are they actually happening? And that's all we'll say about the story. Now, I will give you, I guess, a trigger warning, because I know some people talk about this online, and if you are, like, you know, triggered by infidelity, I will say not to read the story. Or if you're triggered by things like NTR, which I had to look that up, and kind of a weird genre, but, you know, it's usually on the tie of the hen, if you get what I'm saying. It's on the tie of the hen side of anime, if you get what I'm saying. That's what usually NTR is. But if you're not into NTR and if you're not into infidelity, I will definitely tell you not to check out the story right here. Now let's go ahead and talk about the pros and the cons of this series. And like I said before, this is only 3 volumes and 22 chapters, so I had to kind of stretch some of the pros and the cons bit, so that way I could kind of give you guys a taste of whether you actually want to get into the series or if you did not want to get in the series. So let's go ahead and go into the things that I liked about the series. First pro is that the story is short. Clocking in at 3 volumes and 22 chapters doesn't overstay its welcome, and it didn't make me set my expectations high. Like I always say with some of these Nasty Man series, I don't want it to be long. I don't want it to go on for forever. I could get me a nice, sweet, short story. About 10 volumes to me is a sweet point for you to actually develop the characters, develop the story, and come to a nice little conclusion from what we actually set up from the first volume itself. And honestly, with this series, it's not that great of an investment, and it's not that great of a time investment, especially since this series, for my second pro, is not wordy. I gotta tell you, I love my non-wordy Nasty Man series where the artwork, which is a third pro, the artwork really shines in a series like this. And that could be a con, which we will talk about later, but the artwork and the less wordy parts of this series is really great because it gives more time for the artwork to actually flourish instead of you having to read paragraphs of dialogue and you kind of getting bored with that type of stuff. To me, when it comes to a Nasty Man series, I don't want to read a lot of dialogue. I want to see a lot of artwork, if you get what I'm saying. A lot of artwork, you get what I'm saying. I also want to say another pro I have with the series is that there are not a lot of characters, which help the narrative stay focused. You've seen it plenty of times in the series where there's too many characters, not enough of them to get enough screen time or enough shine in the series for you to actually get to develop or actually get some type of feelings for these characters. Well, in this series, there's really about 3 to 4 characters. There's really a handful of characters for you to actually know and get to know, and really not that much on a personal level, but there's like 3 characters, well, 2 characters, where you get to know them on a personal level. I will say that for the whole series. So I do like the fact that the narrative is a bit more focused because there's not that many characters in this whole story. Another pro I have is the artwork. I know I said it earlier, but The artwork is the artwork is definitely a pro. And my last pro is that I like the mystery aspect of Shiori's husband's diary and whether it's actually real or is it just an outlet of him, you know, letting out some steam or venting what he wants in his sexual relations with his wife. Because one of the main focuses in this series that's recurring is that Shiori never really knows whether or not her husband's diary is things that he's actually done or is actually doing, or if he's just writing them and just letting out some of his feelings or letting out some of his desires that he does want to let out on his wife himself. So I do like that little mystery aspect, which is actually solved later on within the series, but we'll touch upon that in the cons. And you guys already know, if we're touching upon that in the cons, it might not be the best thing ever. Which now leads us to going ahead and talking about the cons of this series. One of the cons I have with the series, and the major con I have with the series probably, is that the manga could be a bit indecisive on whether he wants to focus on the progression of the narrative or just make it a straight nasty man series. There's plenty of time in this manga, right, where they're doing the nasty. You get what I'm saying? I'm looking at the artwork. I'm appreciating the artwork, if you get what I'm saying. And a lot of the character progression is actually happening during this. That sounds very weird, but a lot of character progression is actually happening during these artwork moments. And I'm like, do you want me to have deep feelings for what she's feeling, or do you want me to look at the nasty man stuff? Because the nasty man stuff, it gets a little explicit, I will say that. You see lots of nasty man artwork, but a lot of her thoughts are actually going on during these nasty man parts, which is something new that I really don't see in a nasty man series. But to her to have these thoughts, to her to have these emotional points while she's, you know, getting the nasty done, you get what I'm saying? It is definitely different, but I feel like the manga at times doesn't know if he really wants to create character progression and character growth with this character, or if he just wants to make this a full-out nasty man series. Now, I'm never mad at a full-out nasty man series, because I feel like if you go into the series knowing that it's a nasty man series only, then, you know, you sprinkle a little bit of juicy / spiciness to the story, then you might enjoy it a little bit more. But when I first read the premise of it, I thought it was going to be more spicy with a side of nasty, but having more nasty is never a bad thing. But the manga is indecisive on whether he wants this to be nasty or if he wants the characters to actually grow. Another con that I have with the series is that none of the characters are likable. Not at the beginning, not in the middle, nor at the end. None of these characters are likable. All these characters are forgettable. I didn't like any of the actions that all these characters took at all throughout the story. I will say this is the worst cast of characters that I've ever been with in a series. And the artwork also doesn't help. Like the actual character design, it doesn't help. To me, it was ugly, so I definitely didn't bond with these characters. I mean, I bonded a lot with them while they were being nasty, but yeah, you only really bond with them a lot when they're being nasty. Outside of that, the characters are just very unlikable. You get why. You don't accept why, you don't agree why, but you get why they do these things. Another con that I have is that this series is very forgettable. Clocking in at 3 volumes, I did not think that this series was going to be the bee's knees, you get what I'm saying? But also, I didn't think that this story was just going to fly over my head after I got done reading it. After I got done reading that last volume, I just felt an emptiness. I felt nothing after it. You know, it didn't move me at all. And I just thought to myself, was the nastiness really worth reading this story? You get what I'm saying? Like, I like the nastiness, but was it worth reading the story? Nothing over the top really happens in the story. And that's one of the boring parts. And I get it. This is a seinen series. This is a more mature series. But even this, some of the mature themes, they don't really even dive into them as deep as I would like them to. And some of the nasty scenes, while they are explicitly shown within the manga, I will say that, you know, it got a little boring sometimes. It was just, I'm like, okay, we've been on this ride for a while now. Let's actually get to something new. And my final con that I actually have with the series is that, well, the ending, it really doesn't sit well with me. With certain plot elements actually introduced at the beginning and to reveal the mystery's answer at the end and the final answer's reveal, it was a bit anticlimactic. I don't like the ending, and it's not the worst ending I've ever read, but it definitely makes all the characters beforehand very unlikable. And they try to introduce this one thing literally at the end to try and give you a curveball for the ending. And I was just like, why'd you introduce that now? Why didn't you introduce this at the beginning? It literally introduces it to you literally in the last volume, and it makes the ending predictable at that point. And I was like, oh, so that's where we're going with this. That means that everything that's happened before in this manga series, I didn't like it at that point. All the decisions made, I really didn't, you know, I didn't really vibe with them, you get what I'm saying? But overall with this series, since that was my last con, I will give this series a 6 out of 10 on the Nasty Man scale. For 3 volumes, there was a lot of Nasty Man action happening. But in terms of story, I'm gonna have to go ahead and rate that a 4 out of 10. You guys let me know if you're gonna check out Shiori's Diary. Let me know if you have checked out Shiori's Diary. I haven't seen a lot of people talk about this at all, so I did want to kind of spread a little light on this series since no one has talked about it. And I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on it. I'm pretty sure you guys have probably read this online, or you probably read some of the manga's other work. I don't know. You let me know down in the comment section down below. Like I said, thank you guys for watching. If you are new to the channel and you haven't already, go ahead, hit the subscribe button, post notification bell, like the video. And you know I gotta give a huge shout out to my Patreon pledgers for going ahead and financially supporting the channel. Guys, I highly appreciate what you guys are doing for me, financially donating on Patreon. And I gotta give a huge shout out to the YouTube members for also financially donating on the YouTube side of things as well. Big shout out to Broke Boy Gang. And you know I gotta give one more shout out to Nasty Man Army, because they're gonna turn up for this review. They saw the title, they saw the thumbnail. I've been trying to work on my manga review thumbnails, but they saw the thumbnail and they probably thinking, what's the OG Nasty Man gotta say about this series? Well, I just gave you my opinion, so you let me know down in the comment section down below. Like I said, thank you guys for watching. Dark Sage out. Peace.